G'day everyone. Thanks very much for coming along today to discuss strategic and safe use of AI in accounting firms. I'm Drew Flowum. I'm a CPA, former director of an accounting firm who's now off working on SavvyWise, which is an AI for tax research and more. So we do more than tax research. We have workflows in there as well. We are coming live today from Amada, so thank you very much, Amada, for hosting us today. And in a moment, I'm going to introduce you to Andrew Cook, who's the AI governance expert, and he's going to run us through a lot of really important information that I know accounting firms want to hear at the moment. Just last bit on SavvyWise, our early users are loving it. They're telling us that it's saving them from 1 hour of research down to 5 minutes, and every accountant is able to hop on, grab a trial for a month and give it a go themselves. So without further ado, this is our first webinar for the year. I've been hosting webinars to help the accounting industry adopt AI and other technologies. I actually had Andrew on last year, and it was one of our most popular webinars. And AI space moves very quickly. A lot of firms are looking into AI, but they want to do it in a safe manner. So I gave him a call last week and I said, mate, can we do a webinar? And he's jumped on to help us out today. So let me pass over to Andrew. And just people who are watching online, there is a chat function on the website, so you can chuck in any of your questions there. I'll be monitoring it. If I think it's really perfect to grab in the moment, I'm going to butt into Andrew and throw it at him. Otherwise, we'll save some of the questions to the end. So away you go, Andrew.
Great. Thank you very much, and thank you for all of you here today, and for those of you, wherever you may be, welcome. Today we're going to be looking at strategic and safe AI in accounting firms. AI has become very much the discussion point for many, many industries, especially in professional services. And I've been working in this area for 3.5, 4 years. It's something that's changing rapidly. Just to give you a little bit of background of myself, my background's in business technology. I've got various qualifications, I suppose, in AI and its application in business, and I'm working with lots of professional service firms, manufacturing, education, government, all these sorts of different industries, and the issues are often very much the same. One of the big issues which we are going to cover today is all about governance. What do we need to be able to do to use AI easily, safely, responsibly and compliantly? Because although it can do a lot, it does have risks that we need to be aware of, and we need to actually call them out and address them. What we're going to be going over the next sort of 45 minutes or so, to give us some time for questions at the end, is this. We're going to really look at where AI is in accounting. Where is it for you right now? We're going to have some interactive polls so we can see where people are. And really, what are some of the risks that are happening, and what do we need to do as leaders in our firms to do to actually bring AI on board, and how do we grow it? And I'll be sharing with you various techniques and ways by which we can do this. And at the end, I'm actually going to share with you a very straightforward 90-day plan that you can actually look to implement for yourself in your firm. So this is practical, it's focused, and it's very much getting you to think hands-on, what can I do? I always think about when we're looking at AI, it's a bit like, look, we're driving a car. Everyone's got cars, everyone knows how to drive them. Or do they? I think we've often seen a number of rather horrific accidents, and there are rather horrific accidents that are happening when people are using AI because they're not knowing how to drive it. AI is like an accelerator. It can help your engine, your business go faster, but you've actually got to be aware of the road that you're on, the traffic that's around you. You need to know how to drive and the rules of the road. And these are things that are really important. And one of the things that's most important also is you've got to have brakes. Have you ever tried to drive a car without having brakes? It's really difficult and it's really dangerous. And this isn't about slowing things down. It's about actually being in better control, so that you can actually do what you're wanting to do compliantly and easily. So the thing I would really like to ask you is we're going to go to a first poll here, and you'll see a little green button underneath your screen. If you could just choose one of these options, okay, where are you when you're adopting AI in your firm? So is it banned or heavily discouraged? Is it happening informally where people just sort of using bits and pieces themselves? Is it consistent or ungoverned? Or do you actually have some pilots under the way? Or are you really ahead of the game? And you are absolutely the bee's knees when it comes to it, and you can do it. So if you can start to actually enter, we should get some results coming through. Oh, wow. Thank you, everyone. Well, 50-50. It's between, oh, there we go. So it's allowed. Oh, wow. So look at this. This is really interesting. A lot of people are saying it's happening informally, where there's shadow AI. Shadow AI is where people are using AI tools which aren't managed by the organization or necessarily even known. So it could be that you're using something like ChatGPT on your phone. This is actually a risk. You have got some allowances, but it's inconsistent and ungoverned. Wow. Interesting. No one has got it banned. Okay, some people are looking to scaling it, which is fantastic to see. Well done, you're ahead of the game. But we can start to see that a lot of people are earlier in their journey, and that's absolutely fine. This is where you are. And this isn't any judgment. This is actually like using a sat-nav. If you're going on a journey, you've got to know where you're starting. And this is our starting point. So thank you very much, everyone, for who's contributed to that. There'll be another couple of polls coming up. Now, here's the news. The level of usage of AI by people in your organization is grossly underestimated by leaders. What does this mean? Well, you've got some visible, maybe policy, you've got some guidelines in place. Maybe they're informal and they're just sort of being discussed and it's sort of more an understanding than something explicit. But underneath the iceberg are all these issues which are not being properly addressed because they're not properly visible and they're not understood. Shadow AI is there. People using unapproved tools, which could mean that they are using it with the right intention, but putting in client data, which then goes out to some place else, and we don't know where that data's gone. And then you've got privacy and confidentiality issues arising from that. Data leaks happen. There's also the issue of bias. Bias is something that people are not really aware of. But because AI has been trained on the whole of the internet, it's got human biases. And I'll give you an example. In 2017, Amazon, I think we're all familiar with, developed a recruitment system. And they trained it on really good information, all the data, which was all the previous people that they'd employed for technical roles in their organization. And they had to scrap it. Why? Well, who were the people who had traditionally gone for those kinds of roles at Amazon? They were male, 18 to 55, Caucasian. So when the system was looking through people's resumes, it worked out that you were a woman, or that you were from an ethnic minority, or if you were outside that age group, or God forbid, all three, it actively discriminated against you. It was biased. And we need to be aware of that, because if we're looking at data and information as we do in our roles, it can be biased. And we don't have the systems or policies in place that can actually be problematic. So what's happening, though, in the industry with accountants? Well, this came out from Carbon at the end of last year. You see the level of interest, it's high. 85% of people are excited or intrigued by it. But only 37% of firms are actually bothering to put any training investment in it. There's a massive discrepancy here. This means that people are really wanting to get involved, but they don't know how. And if they are using it, they're not using it effectively. The difference is this: when you are trained on how to use it effectively and you understand it, it can actually release up to 7 weeks per person per year in terms of capacity. So if you have something in the region of 7 people and you get it done properly, you've now got an 1/8 without increasing your costs or your overhead. So if you're in a larger firm, that's starting to have significant implications, especially when we're dealing, as we are in many industries, with shortages of skills. This is not just about getting the work done faster and better, but it's also about freeing our time to work on those things which are more strategically important and more valuable for us and our clients. So we need to make very intentional that we are skilled up in this and we understand it. Even though it can produce good content, it isn't always the case. AI can get it wrong. And I think we've probably all heard about hallucinations happening, where it puts out something that looks remarkably accurate, and then when you look and you go beneath the surface, it's wrong. This has happened a lot in the legal profession, where lawyers have gone to lodge documents with the court, and the judge has turned around and said, your citations don't exist. The cases that you quoted are made up because they didn't check their work. If this happens to us, the reputational and legal implications can be very, very important. The other thing is that there's the development in the top left-hand corner of something called work slop. Work slop is where somebody produces something with AI and it looks really good and it's fantastic. But when you pass it on to the next person in the chain, they've got to try and work out and understand it. And you know, if you look under the surface, it's actually pretty useless, which means that all you're doing is you're offloading your work to somebody else because you couldn't do it properly in the first place. So we need to train people about this, and they need to understand it. So when we're helping people and working with organizations to do this, there's a bit of an approach that I take, and I'd like to share this with you. It's a bit of a driving analogy. But there are 5 things that we need to consider. The first is your route. AI is there to support your strategy and the outcomes that you are looking to achieve. If it's not, then why are you using it? It becomes a distraction. Secondly, it's an accelerator. It can help you become more productive and it can create real leverage for you. But you've got to use it in a controlled way. If you've got an accelerator, you need to use the brake. Why do you need to use the brakes? Because you need to make sure that things have the right level of approvals, that they go through proper risk mitigations. You can't just rely on it to produce and do your work for you. If you do, you're going to be seriously disappointed and you will be at risk. So you need to know when to use it and when not to use it, as well as how to use it, which takes us on to the rules of the road. People want to understand how to use it to get the most out of it, and it's a skill you learn and you develop. People have to also be held accountable. If you produce something in full or in part with AI, it has your name to it. You are responsible for that. You are accountable for what you produce. And so there needs to be a system in your organizations to make sure that people understand that, and that when they are being held accountable, we have some clear ways by which we can measure it to make sure that we're helping them succeed. And finally, we need to have guardrails. If you're going along a mountainous road, the last thing you want to do is go at speed and suddenly find there's nothing there to stop you going over the edge. So this is things like having data controls, being aware of what information can go in to AI and which can't. Public information, no problem. Internal information, restricted information, client information, confidential. You've got to think about what are we going to use there and how. Do we anonymize it? These sorts of things. These are absolutely essential parts and tools in creating some very, very good structured governance. And in the guardrails, it's also having things like a generative AI policy. If I wish I could have another poll here and I ask how many of you have a generative AI policy, I would think very few. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's just the way it is right now. But it is something that you will need to have. Because what we're looking at here is actually not technology. I always say this, AI is 20% technology, 80% psychology. AI and how effective and how well it's used is actually about people. It's a people issue, and it's a leadership matter. So it has to be led from the top and have clear governance, clear direction, clear support. And you need to enable your people to be able to use these tools in a way that is efficient, effective, and compliant. There's a real fear that jobs are going to go and jobs are going to change. A job is nothing more than a collection of tasks, and some tasks will be really good for AI, and it can do it, the repetitive, the mundane, the boring stuff. Some tasks that we do, AI can help augment us. In other words, it can actually help us do that work which is important, but at a higher and more effective level. It could be doing an analysis, producing reports, whatever. But there are also some areas where it can't do anything. It can't build relationships with clients. It cannot build understanding of people. It doesn't have any empathy. It doesn't have any moral compass. It can't make judgments. There are a lot of very key human attributes, which we'll cover in a moment, which we need to have. What we want to be able to do is make sure that people are confident. And part of the way that we do that is giving them the training and the support that they do, but also then actually helping them implement it, taking it through low-risk, high-impact pilots so that people learn by doing. They gain the confidence and you gain the capabilities of people who not only are expert in your industry, but also are getting experts in AI. Because there are very few people who are experienced in AI who are out in the marketplace, and there's virtually no one, or there is no one as good as you who knows your particular niche in your area and your clients. So skilling yourself up. The more that we can do that, the faster the confidence, the greater the mastery we have, the more that we can do to build jobs and results which are more interesting, more enjoyable, not only just for us, but also for our clients. So when we're thinking about this, we have to think we lead with the human first. It's human first, not technology first, because this is all about people. And so I'd like to share with you this little diagram here. And the important part here is that it's about how AI can support the work, but we've got to govern the work. I call my AI Tim. Nice, but dim. Artificial intelligence is probably one of the most stupid things you'll ever meet in your life. And that probably sounds, well, hang on, I thought it was supposed to be brilliant. Well, let me put it this way. I'm sure some of you will nod, though I can't see you, when I say, have you ever had that experience when you've got a new intern, a new graduate come on board? I can see a few smiles from people in front of me. They're going, yeah. And, you know, they're really gung-ho, and they're full of energy, and they're full of vim and vigor, and they've been studying this area, and they know it. Great, but there's only a few problems. They've got no experience, they've got no expertise, they've got world knowledge, they've got no context or understanding of your situation or how you work. You wouldn't let them loose on a client from day one. You have to educate them and explain things to them and help them along. There was a great quote that came out a little while ago from a guy called Alvin Toffler, and he said, the illiterate of the 21st century won't be those who cannot read or write. It will be those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. And so we ourselves will have to unlearn and relearn things. It's part of it, but also everyone else that we're working with it. Where AI is really good, it's in dealing with large quantities of data, it's doing analysis, it's bringing things together. It's fantastic for that. But it's got no ability to do what we do in our area. It can't problem solve. It can't make decisions. It can't make judgments. It's got no experience. It's got no expertise. It's just got access to a lot of knowledge. But in itself, it's not wise. This is why we are the thought leader. It is the thought partner. It always works for us. It is never better than us. And this is something that people really do need to understand. It can support the work, but we've got to govern it, and we are responsible, and we are accountable for it. So a quick checklist to help us do this. And I call this the human check. There's really 5 points. You've got to be there to verify that there is accuracy and evidence for what you are putting forward and what is coming out of that, and that it's right. You need to make sure that there is client confidentiality that's being observed, and that you classify your data. The PIRC is about whether it is public, whether it's internal, whether it's restricted, or whether it's confidential. Some information should not go in there, or if it is going in there, it has to be in a way that it is anonymized and doesn't compromise people. There isn't actually any AI legislation per se in place in Australia right now. That will be changing over time. But we are still governed by existing laws like discrimination, data privacy, all these sorts of things. So we need to make sure that we're ahead of the game. We need to be able to show that we are bringing professional judgment. AI is not here to replace you, it is here to augment you. It does not have your expertise and your insight. You need to make sure that it's not only when you're using it, you're compliant, but you document how it uses. One of the things that I say is that assurances that you're doing the right thing are no longer going to be good enough. You have to have evidence that you have done the right thing. And finally, you've got to make sure that it's fit for purpose in terms of how you're doing it, and also, strange thing to say, the tone. Now, I know many people are using AI to rewrite their emails, and it can be great, but sometimes if you just sort of copy and paste what can come out of there, it might come out a little, maybe a bit abrasive or not quite appropriate. So we need to be responsible for that. And this is absolutely just a minimum standard that we need to take on and adopt for ourselves in how we work and how we behave. So, what data is going into right now? These are some of the areas. A lot of people are not sure. Do you know internally for yourselves what data falls in where? Do you have it documented with examples so that people understand it? It's not a major exercise, but having that clarity will help you avoid a lot of potential issues down the track. Governance is becoming more and more important. Now, I've got up here some information about what's happening in 2025 in the EU Act, in the European Union. Well, that's not here. I totally agree with you, but it's symptomatic of what is happening globally. Governance is becoming more and more important. There is the Privacy Act here in Australia, which is being tightened up later this year. Why? Because of AI and the issues that can come around that. We have to be across that. We can't plead ignorance around it. And for all firms, your clients, the regulators, they will demand evidence that you are doing the right thing. To have a policy and just say we're doing this is no longer going to be enough. You will have to show it. And the great thing about doing this and doing it now, before it becomes mandatory, is you create trust. If you can go to your clients, you can say, I understand you may have concerns, fears about AI. This is how we're using it in a safe, compliant manner that preserves your integrity, your confidentiality, and helps us provide more value for you. That is something that will make you very different to anyone else out there who just says, well, we're working on it. And this is something that's going to take people forward. I've got coming up here some slides here on what are some of the minimum controls that you need to have. I think one of the most important ones is the first one, partner accountability. This is a leadership issue. It has to come from the top. So if you're a partner and you're watching this, I urge you to really take action. If you're not a partner, then talk to your partners and get them to re-watch this, all right? Because then I think they'll start to see some of the opportunities that there are. This isn't about risk avoidance, it's about risk mitigation, but it's also about creating opportunities for yourselves. So you can see there's a number of things there. You have a tool whitelist, which those things which you can use, you can't use, why? You've got to have humans reviews, you've got to have approval workflows. I'm not going to go through all of these. You can certainly see them, and I'll put them together as a follow-up for everyone who's registered and attended on this, so you have access to this information. But what I do want you to do is think, what are the top 3? If I could do them right now, I would start working on for 2026. And what's the one that I'd just get sorted this week? Because it doesn't take long to get these things moving. And when we do start getting moving with it, there are many ways that we can start actually applying AI. I've got up there a number of examples of ways that it could be used, from doing proposals and drafting scopes to doing document and work paper summarization. It can take a lot of the work for you that can take a lot of time and free you up to work on those things which are much more important and much more valuable, and to actually start to learn and try and develop new opportunities, new skills, and in new areas. Those are just a few, and there are many, many others which I'm sure you can think of just at the top of the head right now. You could probably write 5 or 10 down. So when we're looking at that, though, we need to think about what it is that we're optimizing for. If we're going to use AI, why? So we've got another poll here, and I'm just interested with everyone. Can you just, if you could start selecting one of the 5 options, and you might have several, I get that, but which one would be your top priority out of those 5? Capacity, giving you time back. Quality, about consistency, fewer errors. Risk, that's all about privacy, compliance, reputation. Growth, new services, client experience. Or talent, retention, capability, and leverage. One of the things some people I know talk about talent, because if you've got this ability to actually provide people with more interesting work, it's a great way of attracting and retaining people. So capacity, time back, interesting. It's come up to 50%. Got a few more things running through here. Quality, growth. Yeah. Looks like capacity is a bit of a winner here. And I think this is something, it's the time back. It's not the fact that we can just do more work. It's about that we can do better work and we can free ourselves up. That time can be reinvested. If you remember in a previous slide, we were saying that you could get up to 7 weeks per person capacity freed up. Even if you only used half of that on doing further work, what would that mean? So capacity, quality, and growth seem to be the main ones. Interesting, risk is not really there. And we'll kind of understand that as well, because if you get this risk, you will be mitigating the risk. And talent, well, interesting, it's not seen as a talent issue. So, but I think I can understand it. Capacity, getting that time back, really, really important. So thank you everyone for your contribution on that. We'll move on. So we've got the capacity and we're releasing that. We want to use it with AI, but how? Well, we've got all these ideas for projects or pilots that we can use, and we can actually get them happening quite quickly. The way that I work when I'm working with clients is very clear. We will get together, once we've identified a pilot, we will get it up and running and test it out within a 4-week period. At the end of that, we know that where we've got the results are and whether we've been successful or not, and whether we either drop it, tweak it and rerun it, or we take it and we scale it. And by doing this, what we're doing is actually building up capability, capacity, and confidence internally. And that then starts to breed success, and success breeds more interest and more adoption. So when we're looking at that, we have to certainly have some means by which we score them. You can start to see that on the left-hand matrix. But we've also got this matrix, whereas what's the level of risk versus the value that we can go? And where we really want to go is we want to go where it's low risk and preferably higher value. Why? Because if it goes wrong, it's not going to hurt us. And your things will go wrong, but they're learning. And in doing this, again, we have to have that culture, comes from the leadership of supporting this and being prepared for mistakes to be made if it's done in a controlled and safe way so that we can learn. So a lot of people are looking at this, but let's take this now and we're saying, okay, let's look at where we are now. And we had at the start, we had the poll, so you're all aware of where you're starting from right now. And I want to have a look at the 4 futures. So if you think about there's the timeline going along the horizontal, the vertical is actually more about performance results. You can put anything to it. But if we look at this, there are really 4 potential futures that you can have. Your future that's ideal, where you really want to go, it's the perfect result. Is one where it's okay, it's an improvement, but it's all right. Still could do better, but not. It's poor, where things have declined, or it could be a crisis where things have really started to go wrong. So, what I want you to think about is which line are you on now in terms of these? Do you think that where you are now to where you want to be in the future, as regards using AI in your business, are you in an ideal situation, an okay, a poor, or a crisis? Now, if you've got a moment and you want to tap that into the chat, Drew will be monitoring that and we'll see. But I suspect there will be very few, if anyone, in the ideal. That's fair enough. We'll see. Are you getting some results there? Not yet? Okay, we'll move on. So as we go through, this is what the curves look like. If we're ideal, we're growing really well. We're improving. If we're doing okay, we're doing a bit better, but it's not at the same extent or to the same level of growth. And if we're doing poor, we're declining. And if we're in crisis, we're going down fast. Fairly clear, aren't they? As a matter of interest, in the group here in front of me, where would you say that you might fit? 1, 2, 3, or 4? Well, 3, 2, 3. Okay, that's fine. There's no right or wrong answer. It's just your interpretation. Now, why is this so important? Well, if I'm on the poor line at the moment in poor performance, and that's where you can see the level of effort for me to get up to the ideal is not that great. Make sense? They're very close. I wait 6 months. What's happened? Well, I've failed to address anything, so my position has worsened. It's compounding. And to make it even worse is that my competitor, who might be on an ideal plane for growth, the ideal line, they're growing even faster. Now I'm seriously behind the 8 ball and it's going to be really hard to play catch up. Now many companies and many organizations will say, I'll start to invest in AI when. All right, and the problem of saying when is that it's like saying, I'll tell you what, we'll walk just to the horizon. You never get there, so you never start. So what happens? Well, a couple of things here. First of all, somebody who's on the ideal will actually accelerate. They're benefiting from the benefits, they're reinvesting, all the outcomes that they've benefited from, and they're doubling down yet again. And if you're on the bottom line on crisis, what's going to happen? You're going to be losing people. You're going to find it harder. You're not as efficient. People will be leaving you in terms of clients. So this is what happens. It goes from being a crisis to a disaster. And it can happen quickly. May not be always obvious either. But this is something that's really important. This is why I think the 4 futures is something we've actually got to think of. Because you could watch this webinar and say, great, love it, Andrew, thank you, very interesting. You've got to take action. Because if you don't take action, other people will. So, what do we do? I said at the start I'd share with you an approach. Here's a 90-day action plan. And I've split it into 3 sections. First one is just doing some foundational stuff. Simple AI policy, 1 page, not 50. We're not looking at anything complex. Train the people. Get them to understand what to use, how to use it, understand the risk starts to mitigate. Identify some quick wins that you can actually start working on, and then start selecting people who can actually run with those and start building internal capability. Then we launch them, and we collect the information and the feedback, and we work out what's gone well, what's not gone so well, what needs to be improved. And we continue to iterate and refine based on this. At the end of that, the end of 2 months, all right, we've now defined which ones we're going to take and scale, because they've got great effect, and start working on our next sets of AI pilots and actually be able to measurably identify what the benefits have been. Pretty easy, yeah? So I'm getting nods here from the front. Thank you very much. And I'm sure I'm getting nods from over there, so thank you. All right, so here's a quick question for you. You've seen this, you've got an idea. Go from foundation to pilot to scale. Here's my question. How many days would it take your firm to complete the first 30 days? That's the foundation element. All right, so I'd like you to select which one of those 4 options you honestly think is true for you. So do you think you'll do it in 2 to 4 weeks? You think you've got the time, the people, what you need to do it, because you can get ahead? That's fine. 100%, well done. We've got somebody there, fantastic. Great, 2 to 4 weeks where you, oh sorry, that's never currently placed. Great, I appreciate your honesty there, whoever that might be. 1 to 2 months, okay. 3 to 6 months, interesting. So we're starting to see here some results starting to come in that looks like, maybe not all of us are going to get it done in the time that we want to do. And I respect that. And it's very difficult because we're running the businesses at the same time, and this is additive. I agree. But it's not optional. Not when you look at the potential upside that you could achieve and the potential downside that you might avoid. So we're getting there. So nearly a quarter of people will think, well, honestly, probably never. I hope this will give you some ideas of what we can do to actually start addressing it. And about a third reckon that they can do it within the 4 weeks. That's great. I'm really pleased for you because that's a great position to be in. So opportunities are there. Definitely some opportunities for improvements for some. So let's just move on. One of the things that we really want to do when we're doing this readiness sprint, and this is what I do with a lot of clients, is these are the sort of the 6 key things that you need to do. You've got to build the literacy with your people. You've got to develop the governance, and you've got to get the clarity and confidence. If you're not sure where you're going with it, it will lack direction. If it lacks direction, you're not going to get to your destination. It's about people. And it's about not just getting the efficiencies, but it's about how we can actually unlock that capacity and that time elsewhere. And in doing this, this is what we're about building competitive advantage. We want to be on that ideal or at least okay line. We don't want to be on the poor or crisis. So if you want to find out more about that, then by all means, I'm very happy to talk with you. So we've covered a lot in this. So what are some of the key sort of takeaways that I'd like to share with you? Well, AI is 20% technology, 80% psychology. It is about people. It is about leadership. And as such, we have to focus on people. And some people are not going to find it uncomfortable and hard, and I get that. And we need to bring them along. Because even on, no matter what your role is, it will help augment you there. It is here to augment you, not replace you. You are the thought leader, it is the thought partner. Imagine that you have got someone who can actually bounce your ideas off. I've actually created a little AI tool called Co-CEO. It's got all the information about my business, about me, where I'm going, my growth plans, my financials, my values, my clients, my offerings, everything. And I can now use that to bounce ideas. So if I'm looking to develop a new offering, what does that mean? How do I do it? It will give me that. So it's being my thought partner, but I'm leading the thought. AI has risks and opportunities, like everything. We need to identify them, call them out, and mitigate them. Governance is about safety and trust and compliance. And if you have good trust, you've got good business. And finally, act now. All right? The sooner you act, the sooner you get those compound benefits. And you do that through getting your pilots on board and your people engaged. So, thank you very much for that. We'll now move on to any questions. We've covered quite a lot, so I hope your head's not ringing too much. Drew.
Brilliant work there, Andrew. Brilliant. Have a think for the people in the room about some questions you might want to throw Andrew's way. We have had one online. It was, if we've emailed any clients this year, it likely involved AI. Why? Gmail now uses email content for Gemini model training. What are the compliance implications?
This is a really good question. So a lot of AI is coming into organizations through the tools that you're already using, whether it be Gmail or Xero and things like that. So first of all, you've got to be aware of that. In doing that, get a clear AI governance policy in terms of what you can use and how you can use it and when you can use it with what data. So I might use Gmail. I would maybe do some rewriting, but I would never put anything in there that is got personally identifiable information, confidential information, financials that I've done in an analysis, which I've then pulled into Gmail. So just be sensible about it. Would you be happy for that email to go to somebody outside the person for whom it's going to? If you're not, and you're not, then don't send it the way it is, and make sure that you send it so it is appropriate. This is just really it's a great question, just about common sense. So two things. One, think about if it was to go public, would you be happy with that? Secondly, be aware that AI is coming in through lots of other tools that you may already have as part of your technical infrastructure.
Thank you, Andrew. I think it goes well with, I saw a conversation happening on LinkedIn where a lawyer would have thought they were doing the right thing by making a declaration that they didn't use AI for any of the submissions. And then another lawyer said, you're going to have to watch what you're saying there because you almost certainly did use AI. Because AI is just pervasive across all technologies these days. The most basic form most of us have been using for years now is just if you're doing a Google search and it's predicting what comes next, that's AI. So it's across all technologies, it's just different. Yeah. That's there. Did we have any questions in the room? Okay. Don't worry. All right. This is very common across most presentations you have, and particularly accountants. Yeah. We are very good at doing the work at the desk, but not so well getting questions thrown our way. Yep. But I've got plenty to talk about, mate. During your presentation, you mentioned about what would be the top 3 AI uses to just like get going with.
Sure.
I, for one, if I could throw my 2 cents in, would be a savvy wise, of course.
Yep.
But I am very fond of the AI note takers for meetings. Blown away when I was first using it. Dead set, true story. I got to meet Stuart Riddle of Claris, who's based here in Perth and has an AI note taker, principally for financial planners, but he was reaching out to accountants. I met him. He gave me some credits. I used Claris that day for a meeting. After the meeting, we got the transcript out, the file notes, the draft email. I literally jumped out my seat, ran across the office to Tony's office, who was the accountant who's normally got to do all the file notes. And I was just like, mate, look at this. Look how good this is. This is like, you save so much time. It's like costs hardly anything from like a director's point of view. I was like, oh, this is just a no-brainer. And that was like one of my big light bulb moments of just how powerful this technology is. So AI note takers, whether it's Claris or Vinyl, you can look into those. And AML KYC. Not typically, like I suppose, thought of to use AI, but that's what they're using to do all that know your customer checks. And as we know in the profession, that's all coming at us like a freight train at the moment with Tranche 2.
Yeah, I've seen. Look, there are so many applications. Think of some of the more common things that we're doing. For example, I ran an exercise. I created a 12 months worth of financials for all the P&L, balance sheet, cash flow, using AI. So it's a fictitious mining company. I also created 12 months worth of management reports. I did 2 things with it. First of all, I got it to go through all that information and produce a detailed report and investor analysis based on what there was on the information. I also incorporated other information from other sources, which were all about mining values, projections, all these sorts of things. Second thing I did is I said, look, I like this. It's good information. It's not very visual. I took the information, I dropped it into an AI tool I use, and within 5 minutes I had a total visual dashboard that was totally interactive and would allow me to do some sensitivity analysis and forecasting on certain assumptions. Now, I have no idea how it did that. I'm not a coder, but this is one of the things it can do. It can do a lot of very, very clever things for you. The other thing is that when people are looking at AI, they're looking at using it for a tactical use or a task. Help me summarize this document. Help me, find some information on a certain topic. The real power is when you use it strategically. So, I worked the other day with a bunch of board directors, and we were looking at developing the company strategy. What normally would take at least 3-4 days, we took a half a day. We had a robust discussion, we incorporated information, we got very, very clear. We were able to do things such as identify what their key assumptions were that they were trying to get across. Now, if you ever try and identify what your assumptions are when you're arguing or discussing something, it's really quite hard. We actually got some really good clarity. We got some great ideas. Now, was it the result? No. It did 80% of the heavy lifting. They still had to bring their own judgment, their own insight to it. So think about this. It could actually help you with your client talk about where are you going, what are your financial strategies and why, what are the implications. If certain things happen to your business, your organization, and it goes through this sudden growth, what happens? Or what happens if certain things don't happen? Now you've actually got some scenario planning. The limit of AI is actually based on your imagination. And I'll give you 2 very quick golden nuggets here. The first is when you put in a prompt and you get your output, there are 4 words that you should put in. Review, analyze, and improve. Now what we're doing is we're getting AI itself to look at its own output, see what's good, see what's not so good and what needs improving and how, and then do it. The other thing that AI can help you enormously on is if you give it context. It's been trained on everything. So there are two things here that you need to do to focus it. First of all, give it a role. You're going, what, Andrew? What do you mean, give it a role? So if I'm doing some financial work, I might tell it, you are an expert in financial analysis and have an incredible ability to pull out deep financial insights and trends which are not obvious. I want you to review this material, highlight where it's strong, where it's weak, strategies for addressing the weaknesses and for leveraging the strengths, prioritize them, give me a level of confidence and explain why. It's a long one, yeah? But guess what? Can you see I'm being more specific, the more detail? And I'll give you one more. Would that be okay? I'm assuming? Great. What it doesn't have is context. So when you're talking to it about something, it will give you a generic response because it's working across everything. It doesn't know your accounting firm. It doesn't know the client that you're talking about. So give it some context. Be careful that you don't give away confidential information, but you can still put in the things in there generically. So the question is, what information do you put into it? So if I had put in a quote like a prompt like the last one, I would also add this to it at the end. I would say, ask me up to 3 questions, one at a time, to provide you with more information, ideas, or context that will improve your output. Now what I'm doing is I'm getting it to ask me for what it needs rather than trying to guess what I think. So doing things of this sort will help you enormously. And when you're doing work with your governance as well, and you're not sure what to do or where to start, ask it. Use it to help you, saying, I'm looking to develop some AI governance in my organization. Where and how should I do this? You are an expert in AI governance and in accounting. Now we're getting there.
Hey, Andrew, great news. We've got some questions that come through after those fantastic tips that you've just handed out there. Andrew and I were actually having some beers last night with a couple of fellas from RSM, and you were giving them those good tips, and they were loving it and probing you for more tips, which was fantastic. So we have the question: what guidance can you provide to accounting firms on client disclosure obligations relating to the use or application of AI?
Okay, so look, I think you have to be absolutely upfront with them as to where and how you're using AI. Clients are actually expecting it. You don't need to necessarily give them sort of every last detail, but one of the things I'd always suggest, get an AI governance policy which actually makes it very clear what you're doing when you are using AI, what tools and how. You can actually share that with your clients as part of your general disclosure. The other thing that you can also do, and I think is quite sensible, is to say, we do use it for some of these things in some of our work. We don't put in private or confidential information, and this is a key part of our work, and it helps us to provide more value. So be upfront about it and be proud about it. Clients will know that you're using it, so that if you try and obfuscate around it, it won't work.
I think it's the same that the industry had. Hello, there it's back. That the industry had with disclosing about using offshoring accountants. Over time, it's just become the norm. So we're just used to it now. It's like everyone getting used to paying with their phone. It's just a journey of getting used to something that's there. But yeah, when I was at Munro's, I was very proud about it, telling the clients, because I thought, this shows them that we're adopting the latest technology for their benefit. Gail asked, do you have any favourite AI programs? I've got a suspicion it's not going to be our good friends at Microsoft Copilot because...
I do have certain key ones, and everyone builds up their own tech stack, all right? Different tools, different purposes. So I use ChatGPT big time. It's very good for helping me do analysis, putting lots of material together, generating ideas. I've been using that since day one, so I've got a lot of experience and I get it. I use Claude, which is from Anthropic, which is really, really good for writing. And it's also very good for helping you create visual dashboards. So I've used it a lot for that. I use Gemini from Google. That is really good. It's up there with ChatGPT. They've had some major upgrades to it. It can do a great deal. It's very good at doing deep research. It has this function where you can go away, give it some instructions on maybe a sector that you're looking to investigate or researching for a client. So say you've got a client who sells air conditioners and you're wanting to find out how is the air conditioning market growing or changing over time and who are the major purchasers and things of this sort. You give it to the information, it will build a market research plan for you, and then if you're happy with that, execute on that. Generally, it will search 200 plus websites that have relevant information, and from that it will find those websites which have got relevant information, compile a whole report around that, tell you or for every fact in there, it has a link to where the information came from, so you could check it out. And it will also tell you all the websites it visited and didn't use. And that will take you about 10, 15 minutes. This is something that would have cost you a few years ago, $20,000, $30,000 and taken several months. So those are that. There's also a very good tool called Notebook LM from Google as well. And that I use that when I need to have a single source of information on something. So say I'm investigating or doing some research on the trends in agentic AI, and I put all my documents in there. I'll put in the links to the websites, the YouTubes. I'll copy and cut and paste. I can put in, I've got a paid version, I can put in up to 300 documents, and from that I can do further analysis. I can produce infographics, mind maps, videos, slides and reports. So a great deal. You'll find that what works for you depends on what you're looking to do. So just because I'm using what I use doesn't mean it's always the most appropriate. You'll find that you've definitely got things that just click with you. Use them. I would stick with the main big guys, ChatGPT, Anthropic, and Gemini. Copilot is actually ChatGPT under the hood. It just works in a slightly different way. You'll find that there may be certain things that you're only allowed to use internally, so I would stick to those if that's the governance internally.
Yeah, on that, this has been meaning to say. At SavvyWise, we find about maybe up to 30% of the people who sign up to use SavvyWise use a Gmail sort of an account, which tells me that there's so much shadow use of AI across accounting firms, and that's why I'm sort of like I'd need to get Andrew to help the profession out, because we kind of do need to reverse that. So the firms are starting to use AI in a safe manner. So thank you so much there, Andrew.
Well, look, thank you. And look, if anyone wants sort of further information, my details are there. Always happy to talk and connect with people. And if you want to put anything in the chat for further questions, I'm very happy to answer that. Or if there are areas of interest that maybe you'd like SavvyWise to cover, then maybe this is something else that we can do as well.
Brilliant. And just before we wrap up, I was in a Facebook group just yesterday, and I saw Shannon write up that the RPA and AI experts, there's this guy out of Singapore. He does like workshops for accountants, helps upskill them. So there's an event on in Perth, and then some later in the year in elsewhere in Australia. So Shannon, do you want me to give it a plug today? So there it is, up there on the screen. And of course, the last plug, get on SavvyWise. You will absolutely love it. We have some very fantastic things coming to help the industry, and we'll get the recording out, we'll get the slides out, and Andrew is available when you need him. Thank you so much.
Thank you.